Good evening, everyone. My name is Juliet Jones, and I'm with Universal Family Connection. And you are watching an AIDS call-in live show. So let's get the number to call in for your questions or comments. There's no wrong questions to ask. This is the place. This is the place to call in. The number is 312-738-1060. My name is Juliet Jones, and I'm with Universal Family Connection. I'm going to pull up our website. Hopefully you can see it. We're located at 103rd and Vincennes, 1350 West 103rd Street. We're on Vincennes and 103rd, right over there by Julian High School, just for familiarity. And we host a psychosocial support group for HIV positive individuals every Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So that's 4 hours. We're not rushing you in because that is our call to mission, to engage an HIV positive individual, to educate them, to learn from them. And in our psychosocial support group, it is client-centered. So that means that you as a client, you bring the topic of discussion to the table. You bring the issues to the table that we should focus on. And we also have pharmaceutical reps that come in, and doctors also expert on the topic of HIV and AIDS. And we all know as you're living longer, there's more than just HIV and AIDS that an individual face. So whether it's HIV and mental health, HIV and substance use, HIV and domestic violence, HIV and heart disease, HIV and asthma, whatever the health issue or the topic, that is what we're engaged to do at Universal Family Connection. Once again, my name is Juliet Jones, and the topic tonight, we're going to talk about the National HIV Long-Term Survivors Day. Did you know there was an actual day? It's a proclamation from Mayor Ron Emanuel, and that day is June the 5th of every year, and this day is June the 5th, 2017 is our official day. And I just want to go into the flyer. So excuse me as just to give you an idea. This is the flyer for the Chicago Department of Public Health. Ryan White Quality Management Program presents the National HIV Long-Term Survivors Day celebration, June the 5th, 2017. And so as you see, it's all about celebrating someone who lives a long time with HIV and AIDS. And just to get just to inform you, Universal Family Connection is hosting a Long-Term Survivors Day. On that day, June the 5th, we're hosting a celebration. So I will go into great detail about that day and what it involves. It involves an award ceremony. There's 4 categories in that award ceremony. So I'll go into the history of long-term survivors. Why is there a need? Because people who were HIV positive, diagnosed back in 30 years, are still living. If they were 20 years old, now they're 50 years old. So they're aging and they're living, they're surviving with HIV. And so that's called for a celebration. Some people may have been 30 years, 30 plus years, now they're 60. So as I said, they're living with HIV and they're surviving even with other health issues. So that is a call for celebration. But we're also going to talk about how to survive. What is surviving? So that's where I need some long-term survivors to call in and tell me how are they surviving? You know, what regimen are they on? You know, you don't have to disclose your name if you want to, but you don't have to. Tell me, how are you surviving? Was it because you had a support group to go to, or was it because your doctor listened to you? Was it because you're taking the medicine? Was it the help of your family, friends, and loved one that help you, remind you about taking your medicine and eating healthy? You also have to eat healthy. Especially with some of the regimens, they may not agree. So that's why it's important. It's more than just, oh, I'm HIV positive and it's been 30 years. No, it's been a celebration of survival. So that's why that's important. So let me just go into the significance of long-term survivors. It's a day to give recognition to individuals who are long-term survivors of being diagnosed with HIV and what it means to be a long-term survivor of HIV. That means bringing awareness to the communities about the impact of living with or supporting an individual living long-term with HIV. On around June the 5th, 2017, we will be honoring individuals who have been in the forefront of many efforts. I have a caller, so excuse me, let me take my caller. Caller? Hello, caller.
Hi, hello.
How you doing, caller?
Hi, my name is Gina, and I just had a question about your best advice to become a long-term survivor. Because we have, people who are newly diagnosed, like, would you say living a healthy lifestyle or simply taking your medication is the best way to become a long-term survivor?
That is a great question, and it is all of the above as well as in between. It's me at being adherent to your doctor's appointment. We could take our medicine all we want. You only go to the doctor every 3 to 4 months out of the year, right? But you're taking the medication every year. So motivating that individual to take your medicine every day and on time. If you take it at 8 in the morning, you have to continue to take it at 8 a.m. in the morning if you're taking a 1-day regimen. Or if you take it 8 a.m. and the doctor says 8 p.m., you have to do both. You have to, so that helps, and it helps to having support of friends and loved ones. It helps reading about your illness. Don't let the doctor just tell you about HIV. Read, research. We have our smartphones. We have access to computers. There's libraries. So there's lots of material to help a person to achieve that surviving way of living, right? And yes, healthy eating, because as you're HIV positive, you're living your life. So you still have to watch out for what calories that may put on fat or pounds, I should say. Food that may be bad for your heart. So yes, all of that, and that is a great way, and that's what this is about, is to help a person that newly diagnosed. There's life, and life goes on, and you are part of that life, and it's called self-responsibility for you to achieve that healthy lifestyle so you can survive. It's also, guess what? If you enroll in a support group, it's a health educator like myself is supposed to be there to educate you and to affirm where you're at in your illness. If you're not even comfortable with being HIV positive, well, it's for me to help affirm that and to get you to that point where you are recognizing that you're HIV positive, and it's not going to go away. The disease is not going to go away. So now you have to continue to live. We also have individual counseling by a licensed practitioner at Universal Family Connection. Okay, Colin, you still
Thank
there?
you so much.
Okay, no, thank you.
I am. Thank you so much. Great information.
Thank you. I appreciate your caller. Thank you. And that's what it's about. See, the caller wanted to know, well, if a person's newly diagnosed, how do they get to that long-term survivor status, right? Because that's a way of living. So if you're newly diagnosed, it's only been, just say maybe a year that you've been positive, or it may be 3 years. Well, you got a long way to live. You got a long way to go. And so life is not over, and that's where the counseling comes in to help you, cope and live with HIV, because it is a health issue, and we can't not move we cannot move HIV from that. People want to stigmatize you, but it's a health issue. That's why there's doctors around. And so that's where the educators and your doctors and your licensed practitioner can help you, understand what it is to be HIV. So thank you. And so that's why on June the 5th, on 2017, we will be honoring individuals who have been in the forefront of many efforts to educate, advocate, support, and empower themselves and the communities about HIV. When I'm talking about educate, I mean like a health educator myself. I'm talking about educating yourself as well and advocating. I participate in lobby days. You know, I do my advocacy in Chicago. I do my advocacy. I used to do it in Washington. I do it from my desk at Universal Family Connection. And so advocating for someone to make sure they get services, make sure the law is there, make sure the the medicine is there, make sure the medical treatment is there from a doctor. That's what advocacy involves, all of that. And then supporting, just like the caller wanted to know, well, how can I, support someone and to achieve that surviving lifestyle? That's what it takes. Listen to them. Don't be afraid of them. It's a health issue. Are we afraid of someone with asthma? Are we afraid of someone with a heart disease? Are we afraid of someone with cancer? It should be the same, but that has to be ingrained in that person that's going to give you that support. And sometimes we may have friends and loved ones, let's be honest, that is not on board with a HIV diagnosis. Well, they can also go and get educated to learn about the illness, to learn about HIV, so they can be supportive for their friends, family, and loved ones. And so that's why it is important for Long-Term Survivors Day, so that so the community can know about what it takes. And so the community will share their understanding that we are long-term survivors of HIV, and long-term survivors, supporters could be an HIV positive individual, or it can be an HIV negative person, so they can be impacted. They don't have to be infected with HIV. And so there is a need for long-term survivors to surround themselves with the support of friends, family, and loved ones, as well as the community. And so that's why this day is so important. And let's go back, let's go get the understanding of why we picked June the 5th. First of all, Long-Term Survivors Day, I will go amiss if I don't say this, is the brainchild of Bruce Edwards, and he works with the Chicago Department of Public Health. He has such great passion about long-term survivors and about individuals with HIV. So he really knows how to engage that individual, as an individual, not someone living with HIV. No, he knows how to engage that individual. He knows how to support them. He knows how to love them. He knows how to advocate for them as well. And so that was his idea, to have that June 5th as Long-Term Survivors Day. But there's a significance to June the 5th. And June the 5th came about when the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, Georgia, identified June the 5th, 1981, that AIDS, Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, was the name of the disease that was devastating our nation's communities. So we are still here to benefit from the hard work of those who educated, advocated, support, and empower our communities. So when you think of those acronyms, think of EASE. So we all know someone that helped ease the burden of someone who was HIV positive, whether they educated themselves and the person living with HIV, they educated them as well. They advocated for them for policies surrounding HIV services or Ryan White services, or whether they supported them in their illness, took them to the doctor, and so forth, and as well empowered them, gave them the psychosocial support group, or gave them the individual counseling that they so deserve. And so that's why it's important about June the 5th. And now, some people may say, wait a minute, what about December the 1st? Well, December the 1st is World AIDS Day. That's a day also to increase awareness around HIV/AIDS testing, prevention, and treatment. So during June 5th, HIV Survivors Day, there will be a panel discussion. It could be anything. So we are looking for organizations that would like to host long-term HIV Survivors Day. You can have a panel. It could be a panel with HIV positive individuals, or it could be HIV negative. And on that panel, just to give you an idea, if it's an HIV negative individual, they can say what are they doing to keep themselves HIV negative. And see, that's a learning tool. That's a way of educating the larger community on how to remain HIV negative, because that is the goal now, to be HIV negative. And there's preventive measures around that too. And so that's why during that discussion, it may come out, hey, you could take a blue pill. Did you know that? It's called PrEP. It's called PrEP, P-R-E-P. And that pill is for HIV negative individuals. And someone that have followed me on this AIDS call-in show, I have discussed PrEP as an HIV negative pill for individuals to keep them just that, remain HIV negative. And so that's why it's important for everybody to embrace someone, because you never know, because we all know someone. We all have coworkers. We all maybe have family or friends, or just know someone in the news who is HIV positive. Well, how did they get to that? Let's just not just shed a light on Magic Johnson. How did he get to be a long-term survivor? Medication, by taking his medicine each and every day and on time, whether it's once a day or twice a day. We have another caller. Caller, how you doing, caller?
Yes, great show. But when you say about the pill, the purple pill,
The blue pill.
the blue pill. I'm sorry,
It's okay.
purple pill, another one, but the blue pill. People think that's all they need. Oh no, that's just one thing you need. You need to cover up. You need to know who you're sleeping with. But the way you said on TV, just take the pill and you'll be okay. That's never going to happen. And you know that, and I know that. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. And yeah, PrEP is called PrEP. Is pre-exposure prophylactic. So that is an HIV preventive measure. It's a light blue pill, and it is designed for someone who is HIV negative to keep them, as I said, just that HIV negative. Now, there's other preventive measures or options out there. And see, that's why an individual who wants to know if they're HIV negative, how to remain HIV negative, that's why it is to come into Universal Family Connection or a community-based organization, or go to your doctor, and they can help educate you on what it takes to remain HIV negative. But the pill caller is an option, and so there's, you have to be followed by a doctor. You got to be HIV negative, so you have to have an HIV test. How many people are still missing out on HIV, getting an HIV test? Lots of individuals, because we don't want to recognize that we are at risk. But if you're having unprotected sex, just as the caller was trying to get to, yeah, you are at risk. And you do have to communicate with your sexual partner, not just your sexual partner. It could be your shooting up, meaning shooting up drugs, your intravenous drug user. You have to educate, and you do have to know the status of an individual. But I will say, if you know your status, if you know you're HIV negative, then you have to go and get tested first of all, right? And then you got to be followed by a doctor. And so the doctor going to determine, okay, are you ready to take PrEP? And you will have to take that medication every day for 21 days. And so this is where the caller says, it's not just about taking the pill. You do have to either abstain or don't have sex for 21 days so that medicine can build up in your immune system, right? And so during that time, when that medicine is building up, if you don't want to wait and you want to engage in sex, whether it's oral sex or genital sex, because we're all grown here. And so now you can wear a condom. So if you wear a protective measure like a condom, that's a preventive measure. So if you wear a condom and then you took your pill for 21 days, well, now it is a safe time to say, well, okay, I don't have to wear a condom anymore as it relates to HIV. Now, that blue pill, that PrEP, is not going to stop you from being infected with other sexually transmitted disease like gonorrhea, chlamydia, and so forth, and herpes. No, that is something totally different. So I don't want to get away from that, but I do like that the caller want to remind everybody. So thank you, caller. So let's fast forward to 30 years later. They say HIV has been around. It was a pandemic. And it still is. It still is that, because people still don't understand what is HIV or am I at risk. People still don't want to believe that they may be at risk. I'm going to reach out there, maybe because they figure, oh, not me, I don't engage in that. Well, if you are having unprotected sex, yes, you are at risk. Fear and denial and stigma, just afraid of what, people may think about you, and discrimination. Can be stumbling blocks. So 30 years later, people are surviving because of people like you and because of programs like CAN TV. Come on, because it's AIDS Call-In Live Show. As much health education is out there, that is what keeping people surviving. And don't just, now that I gave you the information, no, you have to apply that information. That is what really is keeping someone as a long-term survivor. And and it's not to say that the others didn't know. It's about being where you at now, 30 years later, surviving with HIV. And so this is a live call-in show that you're watching, the AIDS Call-In Live Show, and I am Juliet Jones. I'm with Universal Family Connection. And we still got 5 minutes, so if someone wants to please call in, feel free, or 4 minutes now. 312-738-1060. But it does take discussion. Caller? Hello, caller?
Yes.
Go ahead, caller. How you doing?
How you doing there?
I'm doing good.
Very good. You guys, do you have different viruses like herpes or syphilis or stuff like that?
I'm sorry, caller, what was the beginning of your question?
I need to know if you guys help for different viruses of if I don't have HIV or I want to test for HIV, can I get your address to come down there?
Caller, I am not a clinic, so I don't do testing for other STDs like chlamydia, gonorrhea, but the Chicago Department of Public Health, they have clinics. I know there's one on Roseland, there's one on 63rd in Halsted, that individual 63rd in Halsted, you can go there for the screening for sexually transmitted diseases.
63rd and Halsted?
Yes. And thank you, caller.
All right, thank you.
Bye. Yes,
Bye-bye.
so June the 5th is HIV Long-Term Survivors Day. It is a national day that's been recognized, and I'd like to thank the Bruce Edwards, and as well as the City of Chicago and Mayor Ronnie Emanuel for setting aside that day as a proclamation of learning, educating, and celebrating someone who's long-term survivors. I have been in this industry for 20 years. So yes, I had clients that were 19 that was diagnosed with HIV. So see how it can happen to a 19-year-old? But imagine, they're still surviving, they're still living with HIV in spite of what's going on today with the advent of medicine, and they're going to their doctors and they're getting educated and they're getting tested. So you have to know your status. At Universal Family Connection, we do offer HIV testing. And you can please give me a call at 773-881-1711. 773-881-1711. My extension is 1156. You can ask for Juliet. You don't have to say HIV. Just ask for Juliet. So I would like to thank you all for tuning in. And we have 2 minutes, so I don't want to be amiss. I don't want to miss anybody. But if you know someone who is HIV positive, lift them up in this celebration. If you have an agency, host a long-term survivors day. Get in touch with Bruce Edwards at CDPH or myself, Juliet Jones, and we can support you in that. So I'd like to thank everybody for the AIDS Call-In Live Show, for listening as well as calling in. And I'm Juliet Jones with Universal Family Connection. And I just want to give out the website once again as we go off the air, just briefly. Here's our website. So thank you. So remember to support someone and not stigmatize them, not fear them. As I said, we're not fearing someone who has cancer, someone who has a heart disease, someone in a wheelchair. So a person HIV positive deserves that same respect and support. So I'd like to thank everyone for calling in as well as tuning in. This is Juliet from Universal Family Connection. Thank you and good night.